Welcome to the Revolution of Being podcast. Here we get raw, deep, real, and discuss all things high-level spirituality, healing, money, and business. Together, we're going to be interviewing industry experts and bringing you wisdom and insights from our personal journeys and others with whom you can learn from. Collapse time as you evolve and enjoy the ride. Hey, welcome back. Today we are jumping into one of our favorite topics. I mean, they're all our favorite topics, but we're going to talk about authenticity. Authenticity is really something I think a lot of people struggle with. As a society, we're conditioned to follow the leader, to be similar to each other, because that's a survival trait, right? That goes back to our ancestors. Like if you weren't a part of the tribe, you die. And really, what we've learned throughout our journey, but also just as humanity ascends, is the power of authenticity and really how each and every one of us have our unique gifts, have our unique talents. And even though there may be, thousands or hundreds of thousands of hypnotherapists, there's no one like me. And, even though there are many business coaches and those that are on the woo spectrum, there's no one like you. And so today we really want to just dive in deeper to how do we tap into the authentic self? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? And what does that mean for your journey? Because it is the most empowering friggin' thing ever when you truly stand in who you are.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be such a fun topic. I don't know about you, but what I hear a lot is in the world that I live in and breathe in, which is helping small business, they talk about core values. And authenticity is often 95% of the time one of the core values. Everybody wants that buzzword of authenticity, be authentic. But then I find that people really don't fully know what that is. And let's just call it right out. It's really scary to think about standing completely alone in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your preferences, all these things. Like that idea is, I'm going to die. That is the human response to being isolated. I'm going to die. But here's the deal. When you do that, you find this absolute integration within yourself, and that's freedom. So authenticity and freedom, to me, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
From a vibration standpoint, because we are on the woo spectrum, right? All those wooey things. It's one of the highest vibrations. And so how that really translates is when you meet somebody and they are just them, it feels different. It feels different in your body because what they give off is so high vibration. So even if you don't agree with them, there is something powerful about that. And we are like beacons sending out a signal. And when we're truly in our most authentic selves, we will send out that signal and attract what's truly matched to us. So the power of authenticity.
Yes. And I want to just rewind a little bit too. How do we get who we are and how do we become authentic? As you all know, I'm a hypnotherapist. I love studying the mind. I love studying the subconscious, how we become who we are. And this all comes down to the way we were raised and our subconscious beliefs, right? We pick up how to be in this world based on what we observe around us, based on the consequences of actions that, result from our parents or authority figures or ways of being. When we're children, right? If we wore the wrong clothes, we would get made fun of. And so that told us that wasn't safe to not have the same clothes. Or, if you did have the right clothes, maybe you didn't have the right way of talking or the right hair. Like there's always some comparisonitis. And it really kind of shaped us to again, on a very mindset level, subconscious level, you have to be this or you're out, you're ostracized, you're out of the crowd, like you're not going to fit in. And so that translates really into who we become as adults because, I don't know that many awake kids who know to challenge the system and who really kind of on a very pure level are just 100% themselves, right? Like I think our kids are when they're very tiny and they don't yet know about judgment, but once they enter school and start seeing how their peers interact and what their peers wear and how they talk, um, they begin to make up, ways about how the world is. Their brain starts to associate this stuff. And that really goes into also our values, our religious beliefs, our political affiliations. Like all of these things are conditioned within us. And that's not a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a great thing. But we just don't get a chance to choose because we're so impressionable when we're little. And so it really becomes about stripping those layers away of the things that aren't yours, right? Because a lot of the characteristics, I have are who I am to the core. I grew up with a brother who has Down syndrome. And so I, by nature, by being in that environment with someone who had other challenges, I was a very compassionate person and highly empathic. I would see him get made fun of a lot, and it was just heartbreaking. But I was always a very caring person, and I still am. So that's not a trait that's a bad thing about me that I want to get rid of. In good ways, my environment did shape me positively as well. And so it's about doing that deep inner work, the inner child healing, the subconscious work to be like, what's mine and what's not? Is my chasing after a certain level of success really mine? Or is that what I saw in my family? Is my aversion to being poor mine? Or is that what I saw growing up? So I'm running away from it. And so it really is about just stripping back all these different layers. Because at the core of who we are, we're perfect little beings, and we lost sight of that. Because that's part of the process, the forgetting and then the remembering. And so authenticity is really tapping back into that powerful energy of what do I want to create with who I am and who do I get to be and what are my true values that are not influenced by others, not because I think I need them, but who are you at the core of who you are?
Right. And the counterweight to authenticity is on the opposite side of the spectrum, that's shame, right? So why are we not authentic? Because on some level we feel shame within our own authenticity. And so we have these two very different vibrations, and then very different things happen within them. Um, in working with clients that are, say, hiring, this is something I'm very passionate about. Like I love working with human beings, and there's some certain draw to business I've always had because it makes the world go round, right? It's our economy. That's where creation lives. This is like root chakra stuff, right? Giving birth to new ideas. That's what this world should be about. And small businesses have really been compartmentalized out of, this type of mindset stuff
Mhm.
where we work maybe with individuals on healing this, but what happens to people that go to work every day? And so when I'm working with clients, and the reason that I talk about this deep of a layer with people like this is because when they go to hire, just like in school, you're taught this is how you behave. This is what you do. These are the boxes that you have to choose from. Small business owners, they think, oh, okay, I need to hire. So put on your best outfit and, get your language in check and, do this and do that. And this is how you show up. And they end up in this situation where they're like, nobody's staying, or I'm not getting the right people, this or that. And what I learn over time is that, but you're showing up like this, but you're really this,
Mhm.
right? You're really over here. So what if you lead with that?
Mhm.
What if you can just be like, this is what
Yeah.
it is? Now we want to be on the healthy side of things, right? But what if we led with that? How much more free, like you can almost feel yourself breathing easier when you think about that. And and then you're allowing the right people who integrate or who can see you for what you are to either choose to come or go,
Mhm.
right? It's fair. And I feel like I'm talking just common knowledge,
Mhm.
but this is really a new concept for a lot of people because they haven't been taught that
Yeah.
authenticity looks like this. It's not just a word. It's not just an idea. It's an embodiment.
Mhm.
And there's a reason for it.
And some of the questions I get asked, and maybe you do too, is like, how do I know what's authenticity? What's mine is what feels good. Like that's it. it's follow the good. If something doesn't feel good, it's not yours. If you're showing up in a certain way and it just feels kind of it's not yours. Like that's not
Aligned.
you. And I when we talk about business, I mean, I had these struggles myself when I went from being a hospice nurse to a business owner. I was terrified to show up. I didn't know who I was authentically because I was still peeling back all the layers. And the more I tapped into who I was, kind of the scarier it got in a sense because it was so different from who people knew me to be. And I'm someone, if you know me, I swear like a fucking sailor. And
It really does.
I really do. And I love that about myself, right? And there's a time and place for a well-placed F word. Okay, let's just call it. But like that's me. Yet I'm also probably one of the most compassionate and caring people as well. And it's not mutually exclusive. But to some people, it doesn't fit in their box. And it was scary for me to really, not that I have to like go around waving my, F word flag everywhere, but really like saying, I don't want to work with these kind of clients. I want to work over here. I want to work really in the spiritual realm, in the deep transformational journey, in the I want to be unfuckwithable energy. And that was not how I kind of came out of the gate because I had to peel back the layers and figure out like, who am I? Outside of all the indoctrination, outside of all the programming. And I remember it was maybe a year, year or so ago, I was leaving a networking group I had been in for quite a while, and it just wasn't aligned for me. It wasn't the energy of who I wanted to be around. Lovely people, but with just very different businesses. And I knew that was not what I wanted, nor was it where I was going to grow. And one of the members I had started to kind of unleash a little bit more of me on social media, and it felt so fucking empowering. And one of the members messaged me with deep concern, please call me tomorrow. So I was like, oh boy. So I called this person, and they went on to say how this is not you. Like you used to be so sweet and kind in the words you're using. And I was just like, really, this is so interesting. And then I reflected because I'm a very reflective person. Like, is this mirroring something in me that feels insecure about being authentic? Sure was, right? Because I was afraid of showing up authentically. So it also mirrored back to me the fear of judgment, right? And I got it immediately back. And it was a great opportunity to say, if I'm a coach and I'm doing this process with people that helps them become authentic, who the fuck am I to not be that myself? Like I don't have to fit in a box. And I'm glad that your business model is as it is. It's perfect. Mine doesn't fit in a box, and I think as business owners, we're sold so often, do this, in your business. Hey, you want to scale? Follow this structure. Hey, you want to learn sales? Follow this structure. Fuck that shit. I have known out the gate that those models don't work for me because I'm not meant to follow a specific model. Now, it's not to say they're bad. It's to say I've had to create my own with some of those tools. But that I knew that I was not going to grow as a person by following someone else's way of doing it. And that is really, I think, where a lot of personal development goes sideways is we think that other people have the answers for us. And, Jess, you and I have talked about this so much in our own healing journey, our spiritual journey, our business journey, that we outsource our power because we think somebody else knows better. They've been there, they know. And now mentorship is amazing. And I mentor my clients on my own journey. Like, here's what I've personally experienced. Yours may be different. Um, and that's valuable as well. But it's also like, but it's you can't put it in a box, right? Like you're gonna have your own unique journey, and that's incredible because there is no other you on this planet meant to do what you are to do at the capacity you can do it.
Mhm. Amen. I so I've gotten to watch you transform, just like you've gotten to watch me, right? We've gotten to know each other over some years and on different levels. And it was it was a relief from the outside because I could see that in you. And it was just kind of this like, oh, that feels more comfortable. Like that just feels more comfortable. That felt more aligned.
It's like
And that
taking your bra off at the end of the day. You're like, oh my God, let the girls hang.
yes, yeah, it's just this relief and it's not like a good or a bad thing. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to love you when you're authentic.
No,
It's just going to allow people to fully choose based on the authentic person. And the trap is what you talked about. You will trigger the reflection in other people,
Mhm.
and they are going to mirror it back to you. And it's going to come in the form of judgment and shame and guilt. And it is a sticky mouse trap. It's very easy to go, I'll just go back in my box, right? It's safer in my box. This is a layered approach, right? You might become more authentic in one way and continue to learn to lean into authenticity in other ways because it is a walk through the dark. You're taking each step maybe with caution. I mean, some people are crazy and they just go sprinting in.
Mhm.
But this is really a journey of kind of approaching it and being like, I'm safe, right? Like, oh my gosh. And some people will fall away and some people will come in.
100%.
That's the gift authenticity gives you. It gives you that space where you're going to really align with people, places, things, your own spirituality, your own ego, your own archetypes. All of those things, you're going to start to integrate and meld them all together because authenticity doesn't mean you're the best. It doesn't mean you're the worst. It means you're integrating all of that. That is the shadow. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
And in being fully present in that. And in life, you're going to find that the more authentic I have become on my own journey, which was a very hard place
Mhm.
due to my entire life, that was a really hard thing. And I had somebody point that out to me in 2018. They're like, I hear everything you're saying, but something's just not jiving.
Yeah.
And it's because I was ashamed of parts of myself
Mhm.
and letting that go and coming through it slowly over the years has changed everything, but it definitely pulled people out of my life as well
Yeah.
as brought in beautiful souls that I get to experience joy with daily and true connection with instead of all the labels and fake framework. It makes life a hell of a lot smoother.
Yeah. So much more fun. And I don't recall who said it, but there's a saying that I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
Mm,
And that's so true, like in this journey, it repels people, like because there's a lot of judgment there, and who are you to be doing whatever? Or just the true nature of who you are no longer resonates, and that's okay. But to your point, it draws in the most incredible people as well that are going to be on the path with you, maybe for a little while, maybe for a long while, but to grow with you also. And the biggest thing I've known that's been so cool is the number of people that have reached out to me on social media and been like, this is so inspiring to see. Thank you. Like, thank you for sharing your journey. And it's raw and it's real and it's honest and it's not always pretty. It's fucking ugly sometimes. And it's,
mhm.
the shame can come up when I reflect on some of my life experience, but I quickly kibosh it because that is all a part of who I am, what made me who I am. And I don't have to identify with it any longer, right? Like, I don't have to identify with the things that don't serve me, but I can integrate the lessons from those. And, as you step into your power as the person listening here, you're going to empower so many other people. When I left healthcare, the number of people that were like, that's so good for you. I wish I could do that. I'm like, you can. Like, I'm not set up with an abundance of wealth. Like, I am the breadwinner, like you can do anything. And it got people thinking, at minimum, I don't know if it changed their life, doesn't really matter, but it got them thinking, like, okay, if she could do it, like maybe there's something there. And again, maybe it plants the seed for somebody when you step into your own truth. But man, what a shame to go through life the shadow of somebody else and never expressing yourself fully. I will say 10,000 times over, we are on this planet to be creative beings, to step in our power, and each and every single one of us have a unique gift. Um, and your gift may be expressed as like the gas station attendant at Quick Trip. It doesn't have to be some monumental, life-altering role you play. But I think we've all met them people, at the grocery store or just somewhere randomly, on the street, and they smile and you just light up and you feel so good. Or the person next to me who's like jamming out on music and they don't give a fuck in the world. They're just having a blast. And I'm like, you made my day. Like, you being in your joy makes me feel comfortable to be in my joy. And like, what a cool thing to spread, like how awesome.
It's powerful. And if if everybody just did that,
Mhm.
we would shift the world on its axis.
Mhm.
It would shift reality. We would all be in the plane of creation and creativity. And that's where we innovate. That's where we dominate,
Mhm.
right? As people in the most beautiful sense. And I I think about this a lot, dharma, the idea of dharma.
Mhm.
That would very much tie right into the authentic person, right? And we talked about polarization earlier and just how we have these ideas that are fed into us where we believe like this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, all these things. And I think, it was a Ram Dass book where, there was a talk about Dharma, and in that if you're not familiar with what Dharma is, it is your purpose, right? It is what you came here to do and fulfilling that within yourself. And it could be a gas station attendant. I think about my children growing up, the school janitors,
Mhm.
Mr. Brown and Mr. Green made such an impact on my children
Mhm.
that you can't tell me for a minute they didn't serve their dharma in this life. Because if they were bringing joy to my children, that means they were living in joy. You will bring to people what you're living.
Yeah.
And so again, there's no right or wrong. If you authentically are at this level and you attract people at that level or a little bit above, that's a win,
Yeah.
right? That's you living in your authentic self. Just like if you are, Angie and I, we talk about this a lot. Her and I click so well because authentically we both are just like, yes, like I feel this internally. And it could be too much for some people to grasp at times, and that's fine. But we're able to have that communion together, and we will be able to have communion with people at that level together. But that doesn't mean any other level above or below is different. And
Mhm.
so that's really the authenticity piece of it. Show up
Mhm.
as you fully and watch your world change
Yeah.
drastically.
And again, it goes back to just follow the fun. What in your life brings you joy? Um, and a lot of my clients are in transitions. I'm not sure if you feel that way as well, but a lot of my clients are in transitions where they're going from kind of 3D to more of a spiritual practice or and what I mean is more aligned, they're really tapping into their authentic energy. And there's a significant amount of frustration for people. Like I feel like I'm tire spinning. That's a part of the process. I
Mhm.
feel like I just don't know what I want. That's a part of the process. Okay. It's just take the next logical step, and I mean, I feel now for the first time in my existence that I am fully aligned. There are things that are still being tweaked, but man, what a different thing. But I had to go through every single step to get here. And that's not that the other stuff wasn't without deep purpose. I was exactly where I was meant to be. And I mean, I know hospice was such a profound part of my journey, and I'm so grateful for those years. Um, and I deeply have love for that industry and for that work. But that was a part of the process. That wasn't my end goal. I was meant to move on to other things. And so you can find your purpose in every part of the journey as well. It's really, the journey is the destination, as they say. Like you're really just finding that joy in every moment and staying curious. Okay, what about this do I like? Something here doesn't feel good. And I just did some social media about this. Like if you're not aligned, you're probably going to be feeling you're getting your ass kicked right now. The energy that we're in is really one encouraging people to be aligned with their highest purpose right now, their highest timeline, if you want to say. And so that might mean your relationships are falling through. You're having incredible amounts of strife with your partner, and you've known you need to leave that person, and you just keep making every damn excuse in the book. It
Mhm.
might mean that your career is just eating at your soul, where you are just dreading every single day. You're having insomnia, you feel like crap, you just friggin' hate what you're doing. That's your sign. And if you don't know what the next step is, just be curious. Ask for a sign from the universe, pray on it, whatever your modality is. Um, and follow the joy, or friendships. We've talked about that. Like friendships have fallen to the wayside rapidly. And that's just a matter of it's not in alignment for us any longer. And that's not a bad thing. I hold no anger towards anybody who's come in and out of my life. It's all love because there was a purpose in all of it. So, if you're noticing any areas of significant tension in your life right now, pay attention to that. That's your sign to really tune in and say, like, what needs to be adjusted here? Maybe it doesn't need to be changed or eliminated altogether, but what needs to happen to make this more aligned, or am I being encouraged to let it go?
Yeah. It's it's really a journey, like you said. That is the destination, is to be on the journey. And alignment is just a huge word in my business. It's bringing clients to a place of alignment. And that's what I look for. And it doesn't happen on day one. It doesn't happen on day two. It happens sometimes months and years into the process and at different levels. And then you're never done. And I always say the very first step, and I think you've said this too, for my clients, I use a very objective tool to do this, but it's profound for them, is can I just introduce you to yourself objectively? Like to your ego, just subjectively. I can show you the good, I can show you the hard, I can show you it all. But that's the first step. So the first step is always a level of self-awareness somewhere, because the step after that is self-realization. And that's where, okay, now that I'm aware of this, now I can either use it to my advantage or I can not let it run the show. But once you do that for so long, you get to a place of empowerment.
Yeah.
And that's where I can shift myself now. I can adjust myself, but it doesn't mean you're ever pretending to be a whole different person. But you might be looking down the road and saying, I know this now about myself, and this is where I want to be,
Yeah.
right? This is my desire. And so how do I become that today? And that's not about being somebody different. That's about aligning to your future version's authentic self. And
Mhm.
this is where time collapses on itself, and we can get into a lot of wooey stuff. But
Mhm.
this is a beautiful journey of authenticity. So there's a level for everyone. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, this is kind of like a new concept for me, just know, like, if you can do anything to tap into your first level of self-awareness, and that might be a fun assessment, right? The Enneagram or some kind of like disc profile, like whatever it is, might be meditation. You might tap into something. You might ask a friend, can you tell me something amazing about me and something that you could see I could work on, right? If you're bold enough to do that, let that be the first thing that carries you to practicing within that realm. And then if you're at a different level and you're like, this is all stuff I know, look down the road and
Mhm.
say, who would my authentic self be
Yeah.
that is living in this world? And then learn to become that authentic self today. So what a fun, awesome podcast. I
Yes,
love
we
the
can
book.
talk about this for days. And I think in another episode, we'll dive even more into, okay, now you're curious, and then what? Okay, what are the next steps that you want to take, right? We'll save that for another episode, because we also want to give you the practical, tangible action steps to tapping into that, right? Because there are so many people that will tell you the overall picture, but no one tells you how. So we want to really give you practical, tangible steps on action you can actually take to move you forward in life. But as always, if you have questions or things you'd like us to talk more about, please drop us a note, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.